Batman: The Killing Joke by Alan Moore. The Killing Joke is a 1988 DC one-shot graphic novel featuring the characters Batman and the Joker, written by Alan Moore and illustrated by Brian Bolland. The story is loosely based off of a 1951 story called The Man Behind the Red Hood, written by co-creator of Batman Bill Finger. It won the Eisner Award for Best Graphic Album in 1989 and appeared in New York's Best Time Seller list in May 2009, and is regarded as one of the best Batman comics ever written. So, I see you received the free ticket I sent you. I'm glad I did so want you to be here. You see, it doesn't matter if you catch me and send me back to the asylum. Gordon's been driven mad. I proved my point. I've demonstrated there's no difference between me and everyone else. All it takes is one bad day to reduce the sanest man alive to lunacy. That's how far the world is from where I am. Just one bad day. You had a bad day once, am I right? I know I am. I can tell you had a bad day and everything changed. Why else would you dress up like a flying rat? You had a bad day and it drove you as crazy as everybody else, only you won't admit it. You have to keep pretending that life makes sense, that there's some point to all this struggling. God, you make me want to puke. I mean, what is it with you? What made you what you are? Girlfriend killed by the mob, maybe? Brother carved up by some mugger, something like that. I bet something like that. Something like that happened to me, you know. I'm not exactly sure what it was. Sometimes I remember it one way, sometimes another. If I'm going to have a past, it might as well be multiple choice. But my point is, I went crazy. When I saw what a black, awful joke the world was, I went crazy as a coot. I admit it. Why can't you? I mean, you're not unintelligent. You must see the reality of the situation. Do you know how many times we've come close to World War III over a flock of geese on a computer screen? Do you know what triggered the last World War? An argument over how many telegraph poles Germany owed its war debt creditors. Telegraph poles! It's all a joke. Everything anybody ever valued or struggled for. It's all a monstrous, demented gag. So why can't you see the funny side? Why aren't you laughing? Because I've heard it before, and it wasn't funny the first time. Incidentally, I spoke to Commissioner Gordon before I came in here. He's fine. Despite all your sick, vicious little games, he's as sane as he ever was. So maybe ordinary people don't always crack. Maybe there isn't any need to crawl under a rock with all the other slimy things when trouble hits. Maybe it was just you all the time. Well, what are you waiting for? Shot a defenseless girl, I terrorized an old man. Why don't you kick the hell out of me, get a standing ovation from a public gallery? Because I'm doing this one by the book. Because I don't want to. Do you understand? I don't want to hurt you. I don't want either of us to end up killing the other. But we're both running out of alternatives. We both know it. Maybe it all hinges on tonight. Maybe this is our last chance to sort this bloody mess out. If you don't take it, then we're locked into a suicidal course, both of us, to the death. It doesn't have to end like that. I don't know what it was that bent your life out of shape, but who knows, maybe I've been there too. Maybe I can help. We could work together. I could rehabilitate you. You needn't be out there on the edge anymore. You needn't be alone. We don't have to kill each other. What do you say? No, I'm sorry, but no, it's too late for that. Far too late. You know what's funny? This situation reminds me of a joke. See, there were these two guys in a lunatic asylum. And one night, they decide they don't like living in an asylum anymore. They decide they're going to escape. So, like, they get up on the roof, and here, just across the narrow gap, they see the rooftops on the town stretching away in the moonlight, stretching away to freedom. Now, the first guy, he jumps right across, no problem. But his friend, daren't make the leap. You see, he's afraid he's falling. So then the first guy has an idea. He says, "Hey, I have my flashlight with me. I'll shine it across the gap between the buildings. You can walk across the beam and join me." But the second guy just shakes his head and he says, "Whoa, do you mean, what do you think, I am crazy? Just turn off when I'm halfway across." "1988 was a big year for Batman comics. The Killing Joke came out, Death in the Family came out, Watchmen came out a year earlier, which was supposed to star the Batman, but then they later replaced it with The Question when DC Comics didn't allow Alan Moore to publish as he wanted. We're seeing a massive growth at this time of comics trying to reach a more mature audience. And it makes sense when you think about it. When Batman first came out, it was for little kids. It really was. A bit more darker than like Superman, still a kid's story. Cartoon vigilante goes out as dressed as Bat, he fights all these super evildoers. And then as time went on, the audience grew up and the comic industry wanted to grow up with him while attracting new audiences. How they accomplish this is first by aging up the content of the comics themselves. They get a bit more serious about how everything works. They try to be more realistic in the proportions of what Batman's capable of doing. And they start exploring like how these things can exist in this world. This is a tradition that even goes towards today. In 2011, they released the Batman Files, which is actually a big, solid book that categorizes everything about how Batman's supposed to work, and it was really well done. It includes schematics on how the Batmobile runs, schematics on how it's built. They even spoke to an actual exercise scientist and found out how Batman's exercise routine would work out. And the point I'm trying to make here is comics as a whole have been trying to reach, superhero comics in particular, have been trying to reach a more mature audience. They've been trying to psychologically analyze their villains, and The Killing Joke was the first major leap forward in doing that. It goes deep into the psychology of why the Joker does what he does, why Batman and the Joker have this weird relationship, what that weird relationship even looks like. And Alan Moore wrote it beautifully. This comic plays with all these subversive themes. The biggest one is mirroring. The last panel of the comic and the first panel of the comic are the exact same image, water falling onto a street corner, so dark that you can only see the droplets. Every time that the Joker has a flashback through time, it's done through a reflection where he sees himself and then it triggers a memory in his brain. But even then, they didn't want to cement like who he was as a character. They wanted to leave it open for other authors to come in and join in. And so they make it very apparent that the Joker is a unreliable narrator. And you can see this in the flashback themselves, because if you pay attention to the backgrounds, you'll see other Batman villains in the background. You'll see the Joker himself looking at who he was supposed to be. And what it does is it creates this narration, where in the present, the Joker is a psychopath killer. He does one of his most horrendous acts in all comic book history in this one, and even in the same year, he does his second. For those of you who don't know, go ahead and skip ahead 15 seconds. I'm just going to spoil it really quick. He cripples Batgirl by shooting her in the stomach, and he kills Jason Todd's Robin, both in the same year. The Killing Joke is about what happens to Batgirl. Now let's go ahead and talk about the art for a second. The art that was drawn by Brian is really disturbing, but in the best way possible. He adds these realistic colors, the shading, the hatching on the characters make them look human, but he keeps the cartoonish proportions, so it makes it look like Joker is wearing a mask when in fact it's just his face, while at the same time Batman wearing the cowl looks like a regular person. It's very disturbing when you actually just kind of see, and he's very good at these sudden dramatic scenes. Several times throughout the comic you will see the dialogue completely cut out and it relies solely on the artwork to tell the story, and it does so beautifully. Like, you can just tell by a character's expression, by the lighting, by the mood of the artwork itself, what the story is trying to tell you. Batman the Killing Joke made a serious leap forward in how people saw superhero comics as a whole. And then, of course, 1 year later, Tim Burton's Batman the movie came out, and it's just never really been the same. We've had a few times where people have tried to return to more of a cartoonish Batman, like Batman Brave and the Bold. It's a great series, but it's very much the classic, like, POW Batman. We haven't gotten that in a long time because people really want to see more of the edgy superhero Batman. And I really like it both ways, I'm going to be honest. But yes, we do have to talk about Batman the Killing Joke because it is one of the ones that took comic book superheroes, like one of the most underrated form of comic book art that there was, and it started elevating it up and saying like, okay, let's press the medium, let's actually get good adult stories into this, and it did a fantastic job. If you want to see more like this, next week I'm going to be doing The Watchmen, another Alan Moore story that changed comic books as a whole, and which was actually a major pivot point in his career, and it is also what the comic he wrote just before The Killing Joke. And with that, we come to an end of my quick analysis of Batman the Killing Joke. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe, and remember next week we're doing Watchmen. Thank you all, and have a good day.